It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Yeah, baby. Welcome to Monday. Oh, my microphone is very hot. Hope you guys are doing well. I appreciate you showing up for this one. I really need your help on this. I do this pretty much every year. Wow, that microphone is hot. Every year I get to a certain point for the road rally, the taxi annual conference, the taxi road rally, which is sitting behind me in this shot. And I'm about 70-80% done with the panels. We haven't started working on all the classes. Actually, Angel, I should say, is working on all the classes, not me. She and I get involved and we have to argue over, do I get this person for the ballroom or you get them for a class? And that's always a fun little dance that we play. Anyway, I want to go over the schedule in the ballroom, and I'm going to tell you what I've got planned. The two guys that look a little judgy. Whoops. There we go. Those guys, they noticed the photographer. I get those shots every year after the rally. Anyway, I really need your help making sure that I've got the right panels picked, and I'm not going to start locking in the panelists until I know that the panels are locked down. But here we are, 3 months away from the road rally, November 6th through the 9th in beautiful Los Angeles. And for those of you who are watching, go, oh, I don't know, I got to buy a plane ticket. Over the weekend, I was looking at tickets to Orlando to go visit my daughter and son-in-law and grandkids. And Carosa, I was thinking about you over the weekend, but didn't want to bother you. Figured you'd be out hiking or doing something healthy and outdoorsy, so I figured I'd call you this week. So expect a call this week. Anyway, I was looking at flights to Orlando, round trip, nonstop, in coach for $232. Had to do a little work to find it, but they're out there. And I got to tell you, every year we get emails after the rally from people that go, I can't believe I didn't come the previous 6 years when I was a member. Oh my gosh. Just come November 6th through the 9th in LA. You don't need to rent a car. You don't have to drive anywhere. You just literally walk out of the airport, get on a free shuttle bus that comes about every 15 minutes, takes you to the Westin LAX, which is like a mile away. You walk in and you will feel like you're better than a high school reunion, even if it's your first time and you're a stranger. Everybody, can I get a little love in the chat room from you guys that have been there before? Am I telling the truth when I say that you will make friends before you even get out of the registration line where you get your badge? Is that a true statement? Give me a thumbs up or a +1 or something. Silver is down. I think you've tuned into the wrong podcast. Oh yeah, a lot of responses coming. As soon as you arrive, you've met your tribe. It was very welcoming. Absolutely. I met many people in line. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Yep, even someone like me makes friends. Ron, you've been there a million times. Of course you have friends. Peaches Cranko says, yes, lifelong friends and collaborators. Thumbs up. Minneapolis to LAX round trip is less than $200. I'm telling you, come to the rally. Yeah, and you know what? Bring your husband, bring your wife, bring your boyfriend, girlfriend. You can even bring your dog. The hotel actually allows dogs, and there are some people that bring them. And for spouses that are like, oh, I don't know, honey, I don't want you to spend the money and going to California with a bunch of strangers. Well, my love, Disneyland is about 30 minutes away. How about if you come to the convention with me and then we go to Disneyland for a day or two afterwards, and you will get a yes. And inevitably, it's usually wives, come up to me at the Sunday night when I'm sneaking out of the hotel around 9 o'clock. Ladies come up to me and go, I came with my husband. I didn't really want him to come. He twisted my arm. I came, and I got to tell you, I had so much fun that I want to come back next year. I don't even make music. So there you go. I have a weird thing going on my left ear today. Every time I talk, I hear bzz, 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 like I've got tinnitus too, or tinnitus as the doctor loves to call it, but this is not related to that. And so every time I talk, I'm hearing bzz, 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 bzz with every consonant. So going back, Greg Carrozza says, my wife and I went to Disneyland the first year I came to the rally. Well, there you go. Living proof. And Greg Carrozza, can't get any better living proof than that. Fenton Lawless, the header says, we need your opinion. Well, I have a few. Okay, I hope you mean about the road rally. I got to show you something. It has nothing to do with the road. And by the way, you know what? I am going to show you this before I go into this anything. We are going to give away 3 copies of Dean Krippaehne's latest book, Q-Tips. I have read it cover to cover twice, once to go through and just read it, and then a second time to underline stuff for taxi TV purposes. Dean's books are all amazing, and literally, if you want to be in the business of licensing your music for television, buy his books. There I am. I'm back again. So I was talking to a couple of the guys in the A&R department before, and I mentioned we were talking about commuting from New Jersey into Midtown Manhattan, where I used to live and work many, many, many years ago, like 40-some years ago. And I was telling him I'd listen to my Walkman on the bus because obviously cell phones didn't exist then. So you either read a newspaper and got black ink all over yourself, or you listened to a Walkman. Maybe you did crossword puzzles. It was about an hour-long ride in. I used to listen to this. For the kids out there, this is what they call a Walkman. This is a Sony professional Walkman. And when I say professional, I mean professional. The thing weighs probably about 2 or 3 pounds. Doesn't have batteries in it right now, so it's a little lighter. It's got normal position, chrome position, metal position, Dolby B, Dolby C, LED metering. 1984 it had LED metering. Line input, mic input. It's got Vari-Speed on it, if you can believe that. Anything. Anyway, this thing is equivalent to a Nakamichi tape deck. It's amazing. And many of, I should say several. I didn't get it until 84. But I think there were probably 3 albums I did around 84, 85, 86, maybe even 87. And would take my nightly work cassettes and listen on this on the bus on the way home. Sounds amazing. I can't begin to tell you how good this thing sounds. Classic piece of gear. And here's another interesting fact. When I started Taxi back in 1992, and I used to do a lot of screening, this is what your music got heard on. Thousands and thousands and thousands of songs of Taxi members have been played on that. Anyway, small bit of trivia. Michael's ear is clipping. Fenton Lawless, this is not a sales pitch meeting. Oh my gosh. Where did it sound like a sales pitch meeting? Other than I'd like people to go to the road rally. But you know what, Fenton? It's free. Every Taxi member gets 2 free tickets. So, if people show up or they don't show up, it doesn't make me a penny more or a penny less. So there you go. And this will be the 29th year that we're doing the road rally, which that is the road rally. That's one little aspect of it in behind me. That's the ballroom. So I got distracted by looking at the picture. Oh, I know him. I see Peaches in there. There's Peaches. Hi, Peaches. Anyway, yeah, 29 years of doing this for free. There have been years where I've written a check for $25,000 at the end of the road rally to make up for the shortfall between the sponsors and sponsorship and what our overhead is for it. Wow, MMS was 1 year old. Pretty cool. Cassette burritos, absolutely. There you go, Zen Chief Engineer. Do you see yourself in there? All right. Here, I'll give you a couple other rally shots to get you in the mood and wait for people to show up. Fill up the room so we get a nice, good cross-section of opinions. These are the one-to-one mentors. We put about 20 mentors. That's Bobby Reimer, who is like one of the best people you could ever have review your song and deconstruct it and give you advice. A veteran of Nashville publishing for, I don't know, probably 25, 30 years. He retired outside of Nashville a few years ago, but he comes to the road rally. He's been there for, I think last year was his first year. So happy to have him join us. And the people I had him for one-to-one mentorship loved him. Here, I'll give you one more before we get on with the big show. Oh, Steve Block. That guy. Steve Block is still an active publisher in Nashville. And I had the two of them, the pleasure of sitting with the two of them on stage. We do a thing at the end of the day. It's kind of an official panel, but it's really a little looser than that. It's called Before They Were Hits. And these guys come with songs in the original demo form of songs that made it to the charts. You go, oh my gosh, that's what the demo was? So really educational, really cool. All right. I think I'll go back to the studio shot. So without any further ado, let's talk about, get you guys back on my screen. Here we go. So registration obviously starts in the afternoon on Thursday. And then after you register, sadly, you have to go to another line because not everybody does. We can't hold up the registration line with people signing up to get their one-to-one mentor. But when you come to the road rally, you will get a list in an email of all of the mentors that are available for the one-to-one so that you can write down your favorite 2, 3, or 4. That way when you get there, you've already read their bios and you're pretty zeroed in on who you want to get. And then you go to the mentor board, and the staff, who these particular people that work the mentor boards are stickers with different times on them. They know all the mentors. So if you get up there and you go, okay, these are my favorite 3 people in order of preference, and hopefully your number 1 person is available. If not, number 2. And then you might say, well, is there anybody else that's really good at this? This is the kind of music I make, blah, blah, blah. And they know these people intimately, not that kind of intimately, but they know their work qualifications and their musical backgrounds intimately. So there you go. And then the following day, either Friday or Saturday, you go into a room at an assigned time, and we've got about 20 or 30 of these mentors sitting at little cocktail rounds made for 2 people. And you play your music, and they sit there and go through it. Now, here's the thing that we don't, I guess we talk about it, but we don't promise it. So many taxi members have been signed as a result of picking a good mentor that is right for their type of music. And then the mentor hears their stuff, and some of the mentors own music libraries. Some of the mentors are very experienced taxi members. Like Carosa would be a guy who comes to mind, or Keith LeBrant, people who are very experienced and want to pay it forward, and they mentor as well because, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, they were getting mentored. They were the mentee, as we like to say. And now they have gotten to a point in their career where they can share valuable information with their fellow members. So it's pretty cool. You sit down, and sometimes your mentor, I'm saying hypothetically, it could be Carosa, and he goes, man, oh man, I know a library owner that's sitting right over there that would love this for his catalog. I'll introduce you when our 15 minutes are up. This stuff happens a lot. I can't guarantee it'll happen. I can't promise it'll happen, but it's not a rare occurrence by any stretch. So you definitely want to go to the one-to-one mentors. Thursday night, we have a live jam room going on, which is upstairs on the second floor, and members sign up, say, I play guitar, and they get picked out of the room, and they get up there and they go, okay, let's do a 1-4-5 blues jam, or do you know this song, or whatever. It's basically an excuse to do shots of tequila and play with your fellow members, and people seem to really, really like it. Richard Dance, also known as Crawdaddy, has hosted for the last 2 or 3 rallies at least. Incredible guitar player. If I needed to hire a greasy, bluesy, funky, chicken-picking guitar player for a major tour of like a multi-platinum artist, Crawdaddy would be the guy that I would pick. Unfortunately, this year he's not going to do it, so I have already lined up a new host for it. Somebody who used to screen for us many years ago named Fuzby Morse. Fuzby is also like a wicked guitar player, so good that Paul Allen of Microsoft fame used to fly Fuzby out to Paul Allen's yacht, one of the biggest yachts in the world, by the way, that had a full-on studio in it, I believe with the Neve console, and he would fly Fuzby out to just hang out on the yacht and jam with him all the time. Anyway, Fuzby is also a stand-up comic. A lot of dad jokes. Anyway, he's a trip, he's a character, he's a very lovable person, an incredible musician, and just a wicked guitar player. So I called him up and said, our regular guy can't do it this year. Could you do it? And he immediately said yes. So that's kind of cool. And then in another room down the hall from there they've got about a 200-seat theater. It looks like the kind of place you would go to see a Hollywood screening on a film lot. It's a very dead, modern, kind of cozy room. It's like a movie theater, but a little fancier in some way. And we do an open mic in there. So you can play in both venues or one or the other. So that all goes on Thursday night once you get registered. Friday morning, very old dear friend of mine, Michael Lloyd, also capable of telling a bunch of dad jokes, but Michael Lloyd's produced 100 gold and platinum records in his career, dating back to late 70s, mid 80s, late 80s. He's still working. Pretty sure recently did a record with Barry Manilow. Anyway, Michael Lloyd, dear friend, he always opens up. He's my warm-up act, if you will. At the Road Rally, welcomes me to the stage. Then I get up there and welcome you guys and give you a little rundown of the weekend, and then off we go. So this year, what did I do with the real one? Shoot. I printed one out, I stapled it, and I put it somewhere other than where it's supposed to be. Here we go. I've got an older version of the schedule sitting on my desk. Here's the newer one. So the Keynote panel this year, this is the third title. Let me get back to there. Okay, this is the third. And where did the chat room go? Oh my goodness, I'm not really on my game today, am I? This is more like the Quarantini happy hours. Okay, so Friday, November 8th, we start out 9:05 in the morning, or we start at 9 with the opening remarks. Welcome to the Road Rally. That's me for a few minutes. Then the Keynote panel. I was going to call it Making Music That Gets Signed, Selected, and Synced. But I'm for now calling it We Don't Need the Best Music, we need the right music. And this is going to be an incredible panel. If I can get the people I want, and I've already gotten a couple of them confirmed, it's going to be a panel that walks through every little process of how they decide where music goes in a TV show or a movie, who decides what influences their decision. So the genesis of how a piece of music ends up in media, be it film, TV commercial, what have you. We're going to walk through every step with the people that are responsible for picking your music and then ultimately using it. So I'm going to have an executive producer, TV producer, who's become a very close friend of mine, Biaggio Messina. He was at the Road Rally 2 years ago and did a thing where he actually placed music in scenes. Very, very, very articulate gentleman. He also happens to be a composer and an editor, but I'm going to have Biaggio play the role that day of executive producer. He is getting a guy, a video editor, TV editor that he says is one of the absolute best in all of Hollywood. And so we'll talk to him about his process of how he decides if somebody above him hasn't given him a mandate as to what is needed, how an editor on his or her own might make those choices, how they go about where they pull the playlist from, how they scan the playlist. The titles matter a little bit, somewhat, or a lot. How many things do they typically listen to before they slot it into a slot? How far do they listen? Do they look at a waveform and go, nope, there's not enough dynamics in this thing, I'm not even going to listen to it? So all those things are going to be asked of these people. I'm going to have a music supervisor there. Hopefully she can come. I haven't called her yet. But one of my favorite people to ever have on the stage at the Road Rally is a music supervisor named Julia. I'm not going to give out her last name because we had a little issue last week with somebody grabbing a last name and pestering somebody. Let's see. So Julia was a music supervisor that worked in the music for trailers. She worked for trailer companies, which are really ad agencies if you get down to it. And she worked there as a music supervisor. I think she's worked at 3 of those companies, and for many years, probably 10, 15 years or more. And she recently became the vice president of a very, very high quality music library that a lot of you don't even know exists, but they do run listings with Taxi. But it's not one of those library clients that like, oh, I've got stuff in their catalog you probably don't. No, she's not in Nashville. Anyway, I remember, I think I've had her on stage maybe 2 or 3 times over many years at the Road Rally. It's not, oh yeah, it is Julia. She's just so smart, and like the stuff that comes out of her mouth. I could literally put her up there for like a 4-hour session just by herself, and everybody would go home really happy. Okay, then the one-to-one mentor sessions are happening above us on the 2nd floor while we're doing this. And then here's one I need your opinion on. Let me get my air conditioning kicked on. I finally figured out the air conditioning problem, if I've never mentioned this before, and that is I've got a Nest thermostat, and I'm sitting about 12-ish feet away from it, and it doesn't know. Normally if you have a Nest, it kind of knows when you're in the room. Apparently I'm far enough away where it doesn't know. So it puts itself in eco mode thinking nobody's home right now. Well, guess what? I'm looking at my Nest. I am home. Keep it cool in here, baby. These studio lights are killing me. All right. So I'm thinking about doing a panel called Where Do I Start? What do I do first? Because, every year, this is a problem I've got. Doing the Road Rally, probably 30 to 50% of the audience is new, never been to a Road Rally, and somewhat new to Taxi. And they don't know, like, they're overwhelmed. I want to get my music in film and TV. What do I do? So I'm thinking about covering that with Matt Vanderboe, Keith LeBrant, who just confirmed for me about 10 minutes before I started today's show that he will be there this year, and Carosa, and maybe one other person, because for the people that just don't know, they're overwhelmed. And especially if they don't know where to start, they come to the Road Rally. There's so much great information, but I have to balance, like Carosa doesn't need to hear a panel like that. Neither do Keith LeBrant or Matt Vanderboe. But they should be the panelists on that. But for the people that don't know where to start, they're going to find out from people who figured it out and have been very successful doing it. So that is my Road Rally launch, if you will, for newbies. And I probably haven't paid enough attention to people who are early in their process at previous Road Rallies, so I'm going to make a point to do that this year. Okay, so there's that. And then I have confirmed that he will do the panel, but I haven't given him the date and time yet, so this could change. I forgot the eat and greet luncheon. Here, do I have a shot of the luncheon in here somewhere? Let me show you what a luncheon looks like. I'm not sure I have one. Here we go. Is that it? Yeah, okay, so I showed that before. You can get a little look at the room. The eat and greet luncheon, prices sadly have gone up. Are we going to make $1.43 on every lunch just because we wanted to round it up, make the number easy? Yes, we will make $1.43. But when you consider that I've written checks for $25,000 at the end of the rally, sometimes that $1.43 will hardly cover it. But this is your chance to sit at a table with 10 other people, and every 15 minutes we bring mentors. We change the mentors out, and they rotate around the room. Typically, you get 4, 5, 6. I think 5 is probably the average number of mentors that will come and spend 15 or so minutes with you. Again, a crazy number of deals have happened because of the right mentor being at your table. And we tell people now, rather than bringing CDs or whatever form of music, you're better off having a QR code that they can just zap, and that way they've got you in their phone. And I am the middle editor, if you will, on the success stories that go out in our newsletter every month, and I'm just blown away by how many people say that they have gotten deals because they went to the mentor lunch. They either met collaborators at the mentor lunch, they met a music library owner, whatever the case is. So not only are you paying and getting food, which people tell me is pretty darn good for hotel food, you're getting exposure to people in the industry that wherever you live, you probably wouldn't. So there you go. So that's it. Do you guys let me get a little show of hands. Do you guys like the idea of doing a panel on the first day at 11 a.m. up front in the Road Rally, called Where Do I Start? What Do I Do First? Title may change a little bit. Yes, Doug, you do pre-register for the lunches, and we'll send you the ability to do that as we get closer to the rally, probably about a month out. I'm watching as the tallies come in. And while the tallies are coming in, for those of you who showed up late today, I'm going to show you again. I was talking to a couple of people on the staff today about the mid-'80s, and I dug out my Sony Pro Walkman. This thing weighs pounds and is equivalent to a Nakamichi cassette deck. I just saw one of these on eBay for like $1,600, 40 years old and used. It's got Vari-Speed on it. It's got Dolby B and C on it. Line in, line out. What else? Metering, LED metering, which wasn't even a thing in 1984 when they started building these things. Anyway, amazing. Thousands and thousands of Taxi members' music got listened to on that in the early days of Taxi. I kind of remember it was like $600 back in the 80s, but I just looked online and somebody was saying it was like 300 and change. Back then, I don't know. All I can tell you is that I wore out the belts and it's running a little slow right now, but just sounded so good. I didn't pay for it. Sony gave it to me. Sony always sent me, when I moved to Los Angeles, Sony sent me a 25-inch TV. Welcome to your new home. Tell me something else. And then they sent me that Walkman. My last job in New York, I ran definitely the largest audio post-production facility in the world at the time. I left there in '88, but before I left, I bought a bunch of Sony tape machines and consoles for like voiceover rooms. Yeah, Sony did love me. What can I say? Purchased a lot of their stuff for that place, and I'm very grateful. When good free stuff shows up, it's not like it's, junk. I was always grateful. So thank you, Sony. You've been very, very good to me. Okay, so going back to Friday afternoon after the eat and greet luncheon, which you really need to go to. I mean, people hem and haw. Most people that go the first day come and they only buy one ticket thinking, oh, I'm going to save money. They realize what a great opportunity is, and they go down to the Taxi registration desk. Are there any leftover tickets for day number 2? We're actually, because noise is always a factor in that room, it just gets loud. Generally speaking, we have about 30 tables with 10 members and a mentor. So 330 people in that room typically. It's a fairly big room. It's actually a second floor ballroom at the hotel. That's the international sign for second floor, in case you're wondering. We are doing probably more like 25 tables this year. We're going to cut down the head count in there because after 28 years of people saying it's just so loud, the people who are the mentors are always hoarse afterwards from trying to talk over the din of the room. And then you get some people who are like, "Hi, I'm your mentor. Speak up, mentor." So we're trying to do what we can to mitigate that problem. Or we could charge $100 a lunch and have a lot less people in the room. We have minimums that we have to make for the hotel because that's how we get the ballroom, which I didn't realize it was so expensive, but like to rent the ballroom that we block book from like Wednesday night, Thursday morning till Sunday night at 9 o'clock, they are turning down weddings and they rent that ballroom for $13,000 for a 4-hour wedding or $16,000. It's expensive, and that's with no food or anything. So they lose all that revenue when the rally comes to town. So they make up for it by us not making any money on the meals, and they get all that money. But last year it was expensive. It was like $60 or $62. This year I think it's going to be $65 just because the price of food is still expensive, at least out here in California. Right, Liz Red Wing brings a little megaphone with her, but she's pretty quiet. I've known Liz for like 25, 30 years, and she's definitely quiet. Okay, enough time on those eat and greet luncheons. Let's move on to something I'm so excited about. I had him do a couple of pre-tape things for the virtual road rallies when we were all locked down because of COVID. Remember that? Do you believe it's been 5 years already? I don't. Feels like it was 2.5 years ago or something. Anyway, it's going to be called something on the order of creating pro-level orchestrals. And the teacher is amazing. I can't say enough good stuff about this guy. His name is Marc Jovani. And I saw one of his ads on social media about 2 weeks ago, and I called him at home on a Sunday, and I said, Jovani, it's Laskow. You have to come to the Road Rally this year, and I want you to do something on the order of what I just saw you do in that commercial live on stage. So this guy, if you think you're good at creating orchestrals, or you've gotten pretty good and you want to get amazingly better, this is your guy. He does stuff that you'll go, oh, I cannot believe I've never done that before. He takes stuff from like A- to off the charts, just by adding things you wouldn't think of, or techniques in the way he adds them that you wouldn't think of. I love Jovani. He is just one of the best teachers, and everything he says makes perfect sense. He's got a pretty thick Italian accent. I've never asked him. I believe he's Italian. And I'm sure his name was like Marco Giovanni or something, but he still does have his original accent, and he talks very fast. But somehow he's very understandable. You will be blown away. This is one of those panels where if you come to the Road Rally and you only spent this hour in that ballroom with him, you would get your money's worth. Here, let's look at a different picture. How about this shot? Whoops. That is a taxi member talking to like a director or vice president of a really big music library at the Road Rally. Here, let's put this one up because they're cute. Look at that. Michelle and Matt hanging out. There was a party that Pandora threw last year, and there they were at the party. Aw, love the hair, Michelle. She's got the best smile. And Matt, every year when he comes to the Road Rally, he does his absolute best to get over his shyness, and I think he's finally figured it out. Here's another shot that I absolutely love. Look at the look on their faces. These guys are in the jam room, and I've never been able to find out that young lady's name. If anybody knows her name, email it to liz@taxi.com. I wasn't in there for this, but I had like 3-4 people come up to me after she played saying, that girl can really, truly play the blues. And just look at the joy. I mean, this is the vibe of the Road Rally weekend, you guys. Come to the Road Rally. Live large. Here, you want to see a shot from the stage looking out at the audience? So if you're a panelist, that's what it looks like. Oops. That's what it looks like. That was the Keynote panel last year. Brenton Hund. Where are you? There he is. Brenton Hund, Vice President of Music at whoever owns CNN these days. Warner Brothers Discovery, I believe, for the time being. And here, of course, is Sponsor Row. We get great sponsors. Those were the nice folks at Warm Audio and Reverb Nation. Yeah. Anyway, let's go back to the general crowd at the Road Rally. So there you go. So I'm guessing I don't even have to take a vote on the Marc Jovani thing. You guys good for that? You know what? Give me a +1 if you would love to learn how. Even if you're really good at doing orchestral stuff, you'll walk out of that room going, "Holy crap! I'm like 30% better now." Big yes, yeah. Bought a warm microphone last year, and it's great. There you go. Oh, that's a great idea, Keith. I've spoken to Avi Shabbat before, and then he didn't respond to my last phone call, which can only mean he was like out of the country or something, because everybody calls me back. Lie, big lie. This time of year, nobody calls me back. It's like, oh, crap, I got to give up a Saturday and go be on a panel at the road rally. They see my name on their phone. I can hear their little footsteps. We should try and get Shabbat Guitars to be a sponsor for the road rally. Doug Ricketts. That's good feedback on Pandora Amp. I don't know if they're coming this year. There was initial interest, but there's some corporate stuff going on and like new decision makers above the gentleman who came. Hey Keith, let's try and set up a Zoom with you and I and Avi. How's that? Okay. Sometime like maybe Thursday of this week or something. And I'm saying that without looking at my calendar, but it's all road rally stuff all week. Anyway, yeah, I would love to get him there. Okay, so Marc Jovani, locked in, creating pro-level orchestrals. I mean, just mind-blowing. The stuff that I dug up. I've seen probably 20 of his videos over the years, but I focused on one where he was teaching orchestral stuff and just going, yeah, really, really, really got to get this guy on stage for a live one. Then at 4:15, then we have more driver's ed classes upstairs, which I'm not going to touch on today because Angel is on vacation, and I don't even think she's got a temp schedule. At this point, she's just saying, do you want to come? Are you available? And then we take it from there. But then at 4:15 to 5:45, film and TV, song, pitch, and feedback panel. Do you guys still like those panels, the feedback panels? Of course. All right. I never know. I mean, I got to say, the rally last year I felt like was the best rally we ever did. I knew it as it was happening, and I walked out of there going, yep, it went really well. The feedback we got was amazing. The staff all felt like it was our best ever. But I've got to say, the listening panels, other than when Rob Chiarelli got funny for the happy ending panel at the end of the weekend, they felt a little like the crowd was more subdued. Wish there were two happy endings. Excuse me. Is there that much difference between the happy endings? Oh man, there's so many jokes I want to say, but I'll keep it clean. It's a family show. But for those of you who don't know, we call the last panel of the weekend the happy ending because we're all happy that it's over. Everybody's exhausted. I mean, literally, between people flying in feeling jet lag and, just going from like 7:30 in the morning until midnight and then back at it the next morning. What about the happy ending other than it's fun and silly because we're all exhausted and a little loopy from that exhaustion at the end of the weekend? It's really kind of the same as the film and TV song pitch and feedback panel. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people say that they really love the feedback panels because even if their music doesn't get played, and we probably get through, 20, 25 songs or instrumentals per panel. I make those the longest panels of the weekend just so we can get as much stuff done or listened to as we possibly can. But people every year come up and say to me, I learned so much. And it's like, did your music get played? And they say, no, but the feedback that everybody else got taught me about a lot of things I'm doing wrong with my music. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty mature observation. And I get that when I do the A&R Hot Seat videos on Taxi TV as well. So there you go. Okay, so we'll do the feedback panel. And I'm not going to tell you who I'm reaching out to, but they're all great people. And then the next morning, we're going to do the instrumental pitch and feedback panel. And unfortunately, we do that one on Saturday morning at 9:15. So don't go to sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning and expect to make that panel at 9:15. We figure, you know what, get up at 8, have your coffee, grab a shower. But that's a time slot where we can do that panel for an hour and 15 minutes. And Pat Wara is confirming that he learns as much from the feedback for other people's music as his own. Thank you, Pat. It's funny, Pat, when I was picking photos to stick in today's show, I saw one of you. I can't remember. It was your one-to-one mentor thing, and I thought, I should put that in there in case Pat shows up, and then I couldn't find it. My desktop looks like a snowstorm. That's all I can tell you. It's this way every year for the 3 months leading up to the rally. Yes, a panel on getting to bed early. There you go. Okay, then I asked Robin Frederic to do something that I've never had her do before. We're not exactly what form that's going to take. Oh, I got to make a note for myself. What do you call it? We're going to do something this year that we've never done in the previous 28 road rallies. And this was my main reason for doing this show today and having you guys give me feedback. I just didn't make a note about it. So there you go. Okay, I just made a note, and now I will look at that note constantly. Robin Frederic is going to do What Genre Is This? If there's one thing that many, if not most, taxi members have had to deal with over the years, it's like, what genre is this? And it's tough. People who grew up loving music in the 70s and 80s, that would make them what? 60, 70 years old, 50, 60, 70, somewhere in that window. Boomers. There we go. Boomers, like myself. The music that they grew up on and made, loved, and consequently made or still make sounds like it belongs in those decades frequently, because that's who they were influenced by. So it's not only AI that listens to stuff and gets influenced, human beings do it as well. We just don't have the memory and the search capabilities and many other functions that AI has. But that sound, those arrangements, those choices in melodies, those rhythm patterns, even one thing I've done, tom-tom turnarounds, do-do, boom, ba-doom, boom, all the time. Heard that all the time back then. Never, ever, ever hear it anymore, which might be a good thing. I'm not sure, except I love recording tom-toms. It's my single favorite thing in the world to do, is get a tom-tom sound that everybody in the room is like, oh my God, they sound amazing. Love that. So, as you know, every year Robin Frederic packs that ballroom. That photo was probably taken during the Robin Frederic presentation. And she is just amazing on songwriting. And I've never had her do anything on genre. So I want people to hear contemporary music that Robin will pre-select before the road rally and play you. Like, here's 2 or 3 songs that sound like, I'm not as expert as I'd like to be about what like indie pop rock is, or the difference between indie pop rock sometimes and indie folk pop. Depending how each of the, there's like a range for each of those, and there's some gray area between them. Sometimes I hear stuff that I think is like indie folk pop. Somebody else might say, oh no, technically that's indie pop rock. It's like, okay, so what's the deciding factor? I don't know anybody who's better qualified at analyzing those things and presenting it than Robin Frederic. And I think I'm going to ask her if she will pull stuff out of a hat, or maybe we'll have you guys submit it in advance. That actually works better than taking the time to pull it out, call a person's name, were you in the ballroom? That gets wonky. So maybe we'll have you make submissions, and I'll have Robin play stuff from that playlist, and you guys will get feedback on what your genres are. And one thing she and I talked about when we discussed this idea a couple of months ago was that we're really curious to see if the majority of the people in the ballroom audience agree with the genres. It's really hard. A lot of members fall into the trap of they read a listing or they get a brief and they start down a road of doing indie folk pop. But then they hear a part and it's like some other instrument. Oh, an electric guitar part would be really cool there. Ooh, let me try crunchy. Oh, that sounds neat. And before you know it, they've taken it off the road, not off the reservation maybe, but definitely off the path of where they were supposed to go. So now they just spent half a day or a full day, whatever amount of time, doing this piece of music that in the end doesn't answer the brief. But they started out doing it to the brief, and then they submit it to the brief, and then it doesn't get forwarded because it doesn't match the brief. Steve Sherman got a scoop. Man, you should have just snuck out. I never would have noticed. Anyway, so I think that this one is going to be amazing. Rob and Frederic doing What Genre Is This from 10:45 to 11:45 on Saturday. Is that something that you guys give me thumbs up, plus ones? If you don't like the topic, let me know. Because really, this is the week where I'm starting to really button things up. Excuse me while I have a drink while you guys are... Anything Robin does is good. I know, but it's for you guys. I think this topic is so important. That's why I asked her to do it. Years ago, we used to have a page on the website that listed current songs under genres that allowed you guys as members to go there and go, oh, this is what indie folk pop sounds like. There are so many genres that are so close, and they change. The definition of them changes so frequently now that we don't use that anymore because it was just too hard. Hard to keep it accurate. I'm sorry, I left off part of that. I was busy reading the chat room. Dean Turner, I'd love to hear Laurel Ostrander again. It's been a few years. It has. I thought about bringing her back, but it felt a little too soon. And honestly, she's so busy that I literally have to pay her what very high-level Hollywood editors get paid in order to get her to the road rally. And then once I knew that opening panel was going to have another high-level editor on it, because she literally takes a day off work. And if you saw what she gets paid for a day of editing, you'd want to be an editor. She started out as a story editor, and that's what made her such a great video editor. She understands how to tell a story and then put video, the mechanics of that to work in the form of video editing to tell a better story. I will bring her back at some point. But just know that we've got an equivalent to her, and that he will be part of discussing the whole process. So I think that you're going to find out, you're going to learn a lot from that first panel. I don't understand MMS. Not that would be cool, because some titles are hard to know what it really is. I don't understand. I know Dennis Sands really well. We hadn't spoken in like 35 years, and when I called him to do the road rally several years ago, I think it was wasn't he on the first or second virtual road rally? Dennis Sands is one of the two guys who mix 80% of all the big scores for movies in Hollywood. And he's an old friend of mine. I think we met each other in 1976 or 77. And I was out here in LA working on a record one time and couldn't get into the studio. I needed to do some simple editing, like, or maybe it was a mix, the day before the actual session started. And I called Dennis up. He was a co-owner of a studio called Group 4 back in the day, and he let me come in and just use one of their 2 control rooms for free for the day. And so I called him and said, "Hey, remember me?" He goes, "Of course I remember you." We were part of an elitist group of snobby studio owners in like the late 70s, early 80s. And so... yeah, he remembered me and he did the road rally thing. Here's the thing about Dennis, is I've asked him. He lives up in Santa Barbara and he does not leave his little man cave of a studio. He was so incredibly hesitant to get in the car. He said something like, "I haven't been outside of Santa Barbara proper in 20 years or something like that. And I mean, he invited me, "Come on up. Come to the studio, hang out with me." But he doesn't even go to Hollywood to do this stuff because he mixes scores. He generally doesn't engineer them. Yeah, snobby studio. They weren't snobby. They were. I was one of the first members of SPARS, the Society of Professional Audio Recording Studios. You had to be invited to join, and it was like Criteria, the Record Plant, Sausalito, Record Plant LA, Record Plant New York. The Power Station. It was the best studios in the world, were the founding studios and board members, and they had to invite you to join. And I was at Triad Recording Studios in Fort Lauderdale at the time. We were the 11th studio to be invited to that organization. I was truly honored and got to meet incredible people and become friends with just like mind-blowing studio owners and engineers. So yeah, SPARS is still alive. It's not exactly the same organization as it used to be, but boy did I learn a lot from those people. Greg Trammell says, or Trammell, hopefully not mispronouncing that, "The screeners are teaching me genres one return at a time." It's a big issue, right? That's why I want Robin to try and help you guys with that. Yo, Dino. Here, watch this. Dean's in the room. Let me impress Dean. Because we are giving away 3 copies of his book, Q-Tips, later in today's episode. It's a great book. I will be very, very happy for the people who win that book. There we go. I'm back in the ballroom. Okay. What genre is this? Then we've got Eat and Greet Luncheons, which I talked to you about already. Probably have Dean Krippaehne as one of your mentors at that. Yep, we're back in the ballroom and loving Dean's books. Yes, seriously, I've read each of his books twice. Once for my own edification and once to mark it up for actually, I've got to say, what was the second book? Demystifying the Genre. I probably have read that one about 4 times, and my copy of it has post-it notes, dog-eared pages, highlights, circles, everything all over it. And Q-tips, if you've read the other books, look, my copy right here. If you've read the other books, this one will not disappoint. Okay, so then the luncheons on Saturday, and then in the afternoon, although he doesn't know, and I've got to confirm because he had some weird travel thing. I want to make sure he hasn't left the rally when I've got him doing a panel. But Randon Purcell, who was not at last year's rally, is going to do a thing on composing trailers and TV promos. Randon got so good at being a taxi member that he eventually got a staff position at a publishing company that just concentrates on doing trailer music and promos. So he is a staff composer for that company, And he reached out and said, I'm going to be at the rally this year. Would you like me to do a thing on trailers and TV promos? So everybody cast your votes if you like that idea. Yes, Randon is awesome. Or as I call him, Random. I bet he's heard that before, right? Peaches, you got his plugins. Awesome. All right, so we've got some consensus on that so far. Great. All right, then afternoon is more driver's ed classes, one-to-one mentor sessions continue. I reached out to my buddy Frank Palazzolo, who I haven't had at a rally. Some people are just so good that I would love to have them every year because I know how amazing they are and how much the audience loves them. But you can't have the same people all the time because it looks like we've run out of fresh people, which we haven't. And also maybe you get repetitive information. Anyway, hopefully Frank will be able to make it this year. I haven't talked to him about doing this yet, but he did a thing probably about 7, 8, 9 years ago called Does Your Song Work in This TV Show? We ran taxi listings. It was kind of like what Mason Cooper did last year. Mason, I'm trying to think of the difference. I've had the two of them on panels together several times, and it's actually kind of a dog and pony show in a good way with those two up on stage. Anyway, hopefully Frank will be able to make it and do Does Your Song Work in This TV Show? So that one's very much up in the air because I haven't even proposed the idea. I called him on Thursday, got his voicemail, and said, you know what, I'll just call you next week because I wasn't sure what would be a good time for him to call me back. The Hawaii Songwriting Festival doesn't always overlap the time of the road rally because I think I've been to 10 or 11 of those. He hasn't been to Hawaii. Yeah. Frank and his lovely wife, I believe, now have 2 small children. So that's why I kind of let, you know what, when you're just starting out and you're not getting any sleep and you got a new baby. So they went like right from COVID into babyhood. And I think that there were some medical complications post-delivery, I want to say with his wife. And so I just gave him a little breathing room because I really like him. Frank is extremely smart, extremely good at explaining stuff, does it with a passion, and you literally have to take every word he says as gospel because he is speaking the truth. So hopefully we'll get that pulled off. And then we started something informally 2 years ago with Steve Block and myself called, it's not technically a panel. I encourage people to show up with a beer in their hand or a hot dog or a slice of pizza, or they're perfectly welcome because it's kind of after hours. Starts at 5:30 in the Grand Ballroom, and it's called Before They Were Hits. And last year, Bobby Reimer joined us for that. And to have those two guys playing the actual demos, sometimes just acoustic guitar vocals or piano vocals of songs that became hits, mostly in the country genre, but not entirely. And it's kind of like, remember VH1 Storytellers way back in the day? William South, did somebody say beer? Yeah. Just don't leave your bottle on the ballroom floor. Take it with you and toss it when you leave so that we don't have to clean it up or get charged by the hotel for that. Okay. Anyway, I want to have them back to do it again. The Rob and Ron panel was really entertaining. So, I forgot to tell you, on Friday night, Rob and I are talking about doing a thing at 5:30 or 6. It's It's in the dinner hour, so we understand. People have been in classes and ballrooms and what have you all day long. That's why we do informal stuff at night. And Rob and I were talking about just doing a hangout to let anybody come in. And maybe Rob and I will have pizza up there on the stage and just hang out with you guys, just like an open conversation. We thought about having Tony Van Veen from Disc Makers, because he's really good at covering the artist side of things, like touring bands. He's much more from that world than we are at Taxi. We'll figure it out, but just know that that's a probable. Okay, then Sunday morning, November 10th, 9:30 a.m. I want to do a panel I don't have a title for yet, but on niche genres. The vast majority of musicians in the sync world and the vast majority of Taxi members, I believe, are missing the boat on niche genres. People are chasing what they see other people being successful with, which is, tension cues, the kind of garden variety stuff, which I understand. Keith LeBrant's had 1 billion placements with tension cues, whatever. There is a Taxi member, a legendary Taxi member named Matt Hurt, who moved back to Switzerland several years ago, hasn't been back to a road rally since. I think I had him on camera for one, or on the big screen or something. Anyway, what I want to let you know is that many years ago, Matt and I became good friends, as many of our members also became good friends with him. He was probably the first Taxi member to cross the $100,000 income level back in the day. And he told me one day, I was over at his house, he lived in LA, and I went there to do a Taxi TV, a live Taxi TV from his studio. And he told me that he believed that a big part of his success, other than his work ethic, I'm interjecting that, he's too humble to probably say it, was the fact that he went for niches that nobody else bothered with. So yeah, you could do, like, I'm just pulling this one out of thin air, slack key Hawaiian guitar. Not too many people would do that. Don't chime in, Pat. Pat's going to say, I know 1 million guys that do that. I just pulled that one out of the air for an example. Let's say polka. There's another one. I think we have a polka listing that's about to run. Whatever these oddball listings are, even like Italian music, French music, German music, Middle Eastern music, we get tons of requests for that, and several libraries are requesting that now. There is a slack key listing right now. I saw that one. Slack key death metal, love that. Anyway, people always ask, how much competition is there at Taxi? And you're never competing with your other members, because we don't take something that we just picked as a forward 5 minutes ago and take it out of the forward playlist to supplant it with something else that we heard that's better. When the screener heard it, if the screener thinks the quality is there and it's on target, it goes on that list and it doesn't come off. There's nobody going over that list going, well, I think that one ought to go. It shouldn't get forwarded. So there's no competition there. But where the competition occurs is in the music library's catalog itself. So if you are an editor and you are looking for romantic French music, very basic French music that you would hear play, the scene in Something's Gotta Give, Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton standing on the bridge overlooking the Seine, having a little romantic moment, and you hear probably like an accordion or a concertina or something, and a violin, maybe a clarinet, doing a little French music, but very, very basic and simple. A lot of libraries would like to have more of that stuff. And because a lot of people, I don't do French music, I don't do Italian, I don't do polka, whatever, they don't submit. And we don't get to forward a lot of stuff to the libraries. But the people who have figured out that, yes, I want to be in 20 of those niches, those are the people that get picked because there isn't a lot of selection for the editors. So rather than competing with 152 other tension cues in a typical library, there might be only 12 things in the French category. Those are obviously numbers I'm just pulling out of thin air, but probably not a bad guess. So I really want to push that down your throats at this year's Road Rally. Would you guys like to do that? I will also include Jeff Freundlich, who's a very close friend of mine, has a company that specializes in vintage music. We have probably 4 different libraries now that run vintage music listings, and that's a niche as well. But for all of you who are like over 45 or 50 years old and have music from the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, even 30s, and you've got old demos that are never going to see the light of day, they're never going to be heard by anybody but you, getting them in a vintage catalog, I would say we find out about more vintage placements. That's due to the fact that Jeff Freundlich and his team send us notifications whenever they get a Taxi member replacement or when they sign one. It's an area that everybody should be in. And people join Taxi, they're 60 years old, they get frustrated. The music I'm sending in never gets forwarded. They always say it's dated. And why can't I just take stuff that I recorded in 1988 and send that to you? Well, you can for the right listing, but most TV shows and films, probably 80 or 90% of them, take place today. They are in a contemporary setting. So you can't have music that sounds like 1988 unless somebody is doing something or a flashback to 88 or whatever. So therefore, you don't have a lot of opportunities to get your dated sounding or just older music and a lot of what's currently out there. But when people are doing something that dates back to a certain era, they need that music, and that's when you get lit up, man. That's when your music is going to shine because you're going to be on a fairly small list of that stuff. So just know that. So do you like the idea of exploring the opportunities in the niche genres? Give me thumbs up if you like that. Thumbs down or something to let me know if you don't like that idea. That would be from 9:30 to 10:45 on Sunday morning. Okay, no negatives on that. A bunch of positives. Great. Then I've got an open slot on Sunday morning from 11 to 12. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what I'm thinking about there. Okay, Amy Lacey gives a very well explained thumbs up. Okay, you know what? We've got a little bit of time. Spit out some ideas on what you would like based on what you know we're already doing. We have an hour on Sunday morning from 11 to 12. I do have some ideas, but I want to see if anybody there can suggest something that I haven't thought of. Production's tough to do. How to meet your perfect collaborators. I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. Production's tough to do because they're production for what? polka music or rock music or folk music. It's a whole thing. I'm sure that we will have classes that'll be about production, but production is a really tough subject because production of what? So somebody could come in and talk about production of rock, but it doesn't help somebody that's doing tension cues. Darren Moss, how are you? How to use TikTok to promote your music directly to fans. I'm going to make a note about that. I think that we may have somebody coming who is a social media for musicians person that would be doing a class for that. How to find collaborators. Okay, a couple people mentioned that, so I am going to, don't let me forget to talk about that at the end, and don't let me forget to give away these copies of Dean's books, which he so generously sent me a couple weeks ago. All right, so we'll go back and look at the chat room to see if there are any suggestions. Thank you for those. I appreciate it. Will I be addressing AI? We did last year. The Keynote panel was all about AI. See, that's something that we could just hang out. I'm really excited to just hang out and just eat pizza and have a beer in the ballroom from like 5:30 to 6:30 or 7 with Chiarelli, maybe Michael Lloyd, and just hang out and talk. Because there's some things that are 15-minute conversation, not a 60 or a 90-minute panel. That's another issue that I have to deal with every year. Is there great topics? Can we do a whole panel on that? No, and I'm not somebody that likes to stretch a topic to fill a slot. If it can't comfortably fill an hour and leave you wanting more at the end, I probably won't put it up in the ballroom. It may end up in a classroom. Ins and outs of posting social media. Okay, so we need a social media maven, right? Okay. Moving on. We are going to do the song listening and feedback session for people who are not interested in sync, but for getting songs cut by major label artists, other indie label artists, and pitching themselves as artists to record labels. That panel, we had such a good crew last year that I'm going to try and repeat exactly the same people for that. We do it in the 200-seat theater, and people loved that. It's obvious, like 80% of the rally attendees, I believe, are more sync-oriented, but we didn't want to quit doing those panels altogether because not all taxi members are into the sync stuff, Okay. Here's an exciting one, which I've locked down. I've locked in the person and the idea, but not the exact time yet. The video game music market. Now, before you get all excited, remember years ago, we had Enon Zur, Jack Wall, and a couple other, some of the biggest video game composers in the industry. These are the alpha dogs for that thing. These are the people when a major game company is going to release, Grand Theft Auto, whatever the big games are. I don't know because I'm old and I don't play video games. It was over everybody's head. These guys are guys who chart stuff, go into a studio with 80 pieces live, and it's basically like scoring a movie. Beyond just writing it and composing it, you have to know about a gazillion cut downs. Somebody makes a left at the end of the alley, it plays this. Somebody goes straight, it plays that. Somebody makes a right and then backtracks, it plays this. So there are all these different technical aspects, and it was just, I could see it on the audience's face. But we happen to have a taxi member who is one of a very few composers probably in the world doing this. He composes the music for video games and casinos, like slot machines. And that market and those pieces of music have changed dramatically. So he said yes. I asked him, I just think that that would be fascinating. And do you guys like that idea? Would you like to hear about the process? It's making music for video games, and casinos. Yeah, I mean, now that, it used to be all like 8-bit, chip tune stuff. And now it's very sophisticated. So I've never met anybody that knows how to do that. Well, it might be too small a market, but then again, maybe some of the people that are adept at doing that sort of stuff, look at Randon Purcell. Guy got a staff composer gig at a company that does. I lost my train of thought. Okay. And then I do have one from 3:45 to 5 o'clock, cashing in on music for social media. Frankly, I am not nearly as well informed or expert on the topic of how much do you get paid? Where do you get your music? Now that we have a TikTok page, I probably watch TikTok like 3 times a week. I'll go on there for an hour. And there are some pieces of music that show up all the time. As a matter of fact, there is one dramedy cue that I swear to God is one of Dean Krippaehne's. I hear it all the time, and it sounds like one of the pieces Dean features in one of his books. It's aired, I think, on the show with Too Cute, with the puppies tumbling all over each other. And I swear I hear that every time I hear it. I go, is that Dean's cue? Anyway, I want to know more about that. Do you guys want to know more about how to get your music used in social media? Because look, let's face it. People are spending half an hour, 2 hours a day looking at Instagram and TikTok rather than watching TV. There are very few people in Hollywood that wouldn't privately tell you that the number of TV shows getting made has dwindled somewhat. Hollywood doesn't really know what to do, how to compete. Now, the number of shows being made for streaming channels has gone way up, so there's the good news. Anyway, I want to know more. Is there a way for you to make a couple $1,000s a year getting your music used on TikTok? Let's find out. So you guys like that idea? A lot of people probably do source it for free. I don't know what a lot of people is, though. So that's what I'm saying. I just don't know enough. Maybe at the end of that panel, I'll go, well, that didn't give us anything useful. But that's what I try to do, is give you stuff that's actionable. I don't even know how you get paid from TikTok. That's why I want to explore this. Let's find out. Okay, so I'll probably do that. I've got to find the right people for that. And then, of course, the happy ending pitch panel that we end on Sunday. And I'm liable to bring back the same panelists for that one because I got to say, last year was the most fun I think we've ever had on a panel. Chiarelli just came out of his shell. Rob, can be goofy behind the scenes. I mean, we're very close friends, and he and I were watching a movie, not that close, but close. I mean, we're like brothers or cousins or something. And the Chiarellis live very close to the Laskow residence. So he said, I can't believe you haven't seen Shawshank Redemption. So not this past Saturday, but a week before, I went to Rob's house and we got a pizza and sat there and watched Shawshank, which was excellent. Okay, so here's several of you brought up collaborating. I have long wanted to do something about collaboration, and we could never find a way to do it. We've had a little bit of chit-chat around the office about it. I actually went online and looked at how they do speed dating, and could not find a speed dating model that looked like it would work well for the road rally. I thought about taking that fourth portion of the ballroom, it's ballroom D, down at the far end of the hallway. There is a quarter of the ballroom that we don't use every year. And I don't actually like it all that much because you can kind of hear the dogs from the kennel when you're in that portion of the ballroom. So for us to put our stage there, we'd hear the barking dogs. So we've always avoided it like the plague. We've used it for booksellers in the past. We've used it for storage. Last time I checked, the hotel had like a whole bunch of new beds and mattresses and tables and stuff stored in there before they refreshed all the rooms with it. Thought about doing it in there, setting up long lines of tables or classroom tables, and then every 5 minutes we rotate. It was going to be a nightmare and just too hard to explain to people, too hard logistically to pull off. Sometimes, I'm a big fan of the KISS methodology, keep it simple, stupid. So what we're looking at right now is having stickers made that are kind of like the "hello, my name is Bob" stickers that go on people at conventions where nobody knows anybody. And I think what we're going to do is give you guys the stickers so that you can just meet people in the bar. Talk about a good icebreaker. So you could go into the bar with 2 stickers on yourself. You might feel a little goofy, but one of them could say writing collab, production collab, I play flute, I play accordion, need an accordion player. Whatever your need is, we will supply the Sharpies and the stickers, and you guys put them on. You're going to go to the bar anyway. You're going to have a drink. What a great way to meet people is by advertising. You could actually put some on your back. Is it possible for people to offer their talents for collaborating, playing instrumental tracks, vocals, percussion, lyrics? Yeah, but where? What am I going to do? Bring them up on stage? Okay, and our next person who would like to collaborate is Steve Warner, and Steve is a keyboard player. Let's play Steve's stuff. We wouldn't get through enough to really matter. We looked at doing that, and God, we've been through so many scenarios that just nothing ever works. And then it just came down to, why don't we just have people put stickers on saying what they have to offer or what they need? We thought about doing a collaboration room. That's why we talked about Section D of the ballroom, but it's just going to be a boring room. We can have people put business cards, but the bar thing, that's where people go to mingle anyway, right? Have a list somewhere? We could do that. We could, we've had a bulletin board some years, unfortunately, and this has happened twice we've done it. People come in, there's one in every crowd, probably more like 5 or 10 in every crowd, and they take other people's stuff off the bulletin board, drop it on the floor, and then take their thing up. I'm a great singer, and paste up, or thumbtack up an 8x11 sheet of paper all about them, because they're far more important than the people whose stuff they just took off. So that really upsets me when that happens. This idea is brilliant. Which idea? The stickers? You could have a sticker that says, "Looking for a girlfriend." For the boys who are shy and really bad at, "Hey baby, new in town." By the way, there have been marriages, my daughter being one of them. My 40-year-old daughter, Sarah, met her husband Hayden at a road rally. He was working at one of the booths for a sponsor, and he said, "Who's that girl you were just talking to?" And I said, "That, my friend, is my daughter." Anyway, they ended up getting married, and I now have 2 grandchildren. So there you go. And it's happened for several people at the Road Rally. Um, um, you know what? If you meet somebody and the conversation starts, you can just duck out of there. We used to have the room where the golf simulators are. Unfortunately, they put golf simulators in there thinking, I warned the hotel, I said, don't do it. I actually, at one point when I was first starting taxi and needed a taxi wasn't generating income for me, I was selling those golf simulators because I could make a $6,000 commission on each one that I sold back in 1991. I told the hotel, don't do it. You are never going to make your money back on those things, but they did it, and those rooms sit there empty a lot. Could we have designated quiet rooms where people go talk and maybe write? Those rooms exist. You kind of have to find your corner at the Road Rally. And we've had rooms, frankly, that I forget what we call it, like a lounge or something. And, we end up paying for a room that's like 20 feet by 40 feet and move a couple pieces of furniture in there and some little table lights and stuff to kind of give it some vibe. And I don't think 10 people go in those rooms during the course of the entire weekend. So we've kind of given up on that idea. That's true. My grandchildren actually do owe their existence to the Road Rally. My granddaughter Molly is quite a ham, and she's come to the Road Rally a few times, and I've got a picture of her at the end of the rally when the staff was up there taking their bows. She saw my wife Deb up there, like, oh, Grandma's on stage. So she ran up there, and that kid will grab anything that looks like a microphone. She's been this way since like she was a year and a half old. Unfortunately, we have a light. You know those tent lights, a brass tent light? Well, we've got one that instead of a tent, it stands about that tall. It's made out of brass, and it has like a tubular light. Honestly, it looks a little bit like a microphone on a stand. Unfortunately, it's got some sort of light bulb in it that's extremely hot. And poor little Molly, when she was like 18 months, 2 years old, ran in the living room to go sing us a Disney song, I'm sure, and she grabbed that thing with her full hand. You cannot imagine how much she screamed. Sorry, Molly. Okay. Okay, so that's that. So you guys like the idea. I mean, we may come up with something better. If you have ideas that you want to email us on how to better do the collaboration thing than just stickers. I mean, you could frankly wear the stickers all weekend. It might look a little dorky, but you might actually, you know what? How many times have we all heard, look, Jim Thacker, and I forget his collaborator's name, they met each other at a road rally. I think Carosa met somebody sitting in the ballroom at the road rally. The number of people to meet in line is crazy. And these are, you meet a collaborator, you end up working with them on stuff, and now your work is in the door of a library because the collaborators had a 3-year relationship with that library. Now you have a relationship with that library. And 2 heads are better than 1, and you just become more productive because you don't want to embarrass yourself by being a lazy bum in front of your collaborator. So all these things go into the value of why collaboration is so important. And let's face it, many, many musicians hide themselves in a back bedroom or a basement. All right. I think I've covered all of my stuff. Oh, there's one other panel that I want to do. I was so blown away. Oh, God, totally drawing a blank. Robina Ritchie Barker. She was so good on the panels I had her on last year that I called her and said, you know what, I've done panels a couple of times on, women getting more involved in making music. I have 4 daughters. They range in age from like 20, almost 25 up to like 43. I am a firm believer that a woman can do anything that a man can do, except for maybe something that involves brute strength, okay? Like being a coal miner for a woman might be a tough gig, could be wrong. But anything that involves brain power, computers, so many things. Everybody talks about, equality and women should, absolutely. But there are far fewer women that know how to run Pro Tools or Logic or Cubase or whatever people are using. And it really genuinely feels like a little knife in my chest when the times that I've had to call a taxi member and say, hey, Susan, we've got somebody that would love to license your song. They just need mix minus vocal. And Susan says, oh, I've got to wait for my husband to come home. Eesh. So I called Robina and said, I shouldn't moderate this. There should not be a dude moderating a panel about women being empowered to get far more involved in engineering and production. And I asked Robina if she would moderate it. So they will be her questions and her moderation. And how old am I? Let's just say I'm a boomer. Old enough. Okay? Anyway, that's that. So that will be in there. I don't know what else I'm going to call it. Oh, you know who else I want on that panel? Kim Tibbs. She's done, she did some classes last year at the Road Rally. She's been on a Taxi TV. I hold that woman in such incredibly high esteem. First of all, she's a seriously accomplished musician. She's had 2 number 1 soul hits, S-O-U-L, not S-O-L-E, soul hits on the British charts. She is a world-class, in-demand B3 expert. She has a full-on recording console and 2-inch tape machine in her house. I'm just so impressed with her. We became friends 2 or 3 years ago. She's like VP of sales at, I am so drawing blanks today. Adhere Technologies, who's been a Road Rally sponsor. They're coming back again this year. So I met her in the context of her being a sponsor, and I took her out for a dinner one night at the Asian restaurant next door to the hotel, a sponsored thank you dinner, and she and I just hit it off. We could talk microphones, wires, consoles, analog recording, production, engineering, all that stuff all night long. Had the best time. And we have remained friends to the point where we probably talk, 2 or 3 times. But we talked the other day. I called her like Wednesday or Thursday of last week to ask her if she'd be on this panel. And we ended up staying on the phone for 2 hours. So she'll be on that panel. So imagine Robina, Kim Tibbs. There's another woman. I'm not going to mention her name. It's somebody I know who is a world-class violinist that plays on really big, like, global tours and stuff like that. Hopefully she'll be in town, be available to be on. These are just powerful, strong, compassionate, and passionate women that I think would be great. Okay, so there's that. And now let's give away, let me go back to the book. Like I said, I've read it twice. Boom! That book, Q-Tips by Dean Krippaehne. And the subtitle is 50 Songwriting, Composing, and Music Production Hacks to Speed Up Your Sync Journey. All of Dean's books are amazing. If you don't have all 3, spend $100 and buy all 3 books. You will get thousands of dollars worth of value out of them. I don't make a penny. I really don't. So there you go. So how we're going to do this is we're going to pick 3 people, but we can't send them outside of the lower 48, and we can send them to Canada. Even that's not cheap. But trying to send even a relatively small, oops, I should get my face back up on the screen there, shouldn't I? Sending a relatively small, thin, lightweight book like this to Europe or Asia costs way more than the book. So there you go. I'm going to have you guys type in, if you don't have the book already. If you already do, please don't enter. And if you live outside the U.S., I'm so sorry. Thank you for, Wonder Woman panel. There you go. If I called it Wonder Women, though, I'd love to hijack that, but nobody'd know exactly what it's about. Okay. Type in the letters RR for Road Rally. And Liz is going to shut her eyes and go up and down the chat room and go bink, bink, and bink, and pick 3 of you who will get a copy of Dean's incredibly excellent book. Ooh, I'm so excited. I'm nervous to see who gets it. All right, if you haven't registered for the Road Rally yet, go to taxi.com/rally. Like I said, it's November 6th through the 9th. If you have any afterthoughts from today's show, you know what? Rather than clogging up Liz's mailbox, just drop them in the comments. Nobody ever comments on our videos. I can't believe it, but nobody does. I think because we answer so many questions during the episodes that you don't have any questions. Anyway, this did feel a little bit like the Quarantini happy hours, didn't it? Not as well organized as I should have been. I really want to get this collaboration thing going. But, to just book a room. Okay, everybody who'd like to find a collaborator, go down this room. It's going to be a bunch of shy people standing in the room. And we tried to think about, do we set them up at stations like speed dating? How do we get up there and MC it? Blah, blah, blah. Everything was just not working. So that's where we came up with the stickers in the bar. Oh, you're welcome, Martin. I value, so many of the things that we've gotten right with Taxi have been things that the members. Here we go. 3 winners: Pat Wara, Chrissy Roberts, and Doug Markley. Congratulations. Have it sectioned by instrument and vocals. We talked about that, but what if somebody does both? I'm telling you, every time we thought we had a great idea, it's like, oh man. Yeah, no go for coyote talk today. Something weird is going. I said to my wife this weekend that we have far less birds and wildlife in our backyard than we used to have years ago. Don't know what it is. Congratulations, you guys. You are going to love this book. I will see you next week. And my special guest for next week's Road Rally is going to be none other than Keith LeBrant, the man who wrote this theme. And I will see you next week for that. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Keith LeBrant wrote it, played it, produced it, mixed it, and got it back to me like an hour.